Recording in progress. Okay. Okay, let's begin. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Taste and attachment are both precarious to bhava and are the extremities of spiritual development for a still conditioned sadhaka. At the stage of taste, a sadhaka's affinity for bhava is immature and primarily directed to acts of devotion, while at the stage of attachment, that affinity has matured and is directed to the object of devotion, Krishna. In the following verse, Rupa Goswami explains that a sadhaka is freed of material obstacles in proportion to the attraction that he has for devotional activities. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, that's ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. To the degree karma that one is attentive in chanting, to that degree taste for the holy names awakens, and to that degree material obstacles are eradicated. Interestingly, Rupa Goswami identifies devotees at the stage of bhava as practitioners, sadhakas. He does so because while bhava bhaktas have transcended the modes of material nature, they are still not perfect. And since there are only two kinds of devotees, practitioners and perfected, the Acharya states that bhava bhaktas remain in the category of sadhakas. Rupa Goswami writes,
you can just
continue. Or? Yeah. Practitioners are those who have developed rati for Krishna but have not completely extinguished the anarthas and who are qualified to see Krishna directly.
Okay. Any observations, comments, questions? So
I like this sentence. To the degree that one is attentive in chanting, to that degree the taste for the holy name awakens, and to that degree material obstacles are eradicated. So everything depends on how your chanting is.
yeah, and that subject of ekagrata, it's called, that's a major subject in this book. Maharaj will break down the whole, he really breaks it down in the form of Sankhya and studies the mind and the intelligence and the senses and explains about the process of becoming ekagrata and emphasizes its importance. Yeah. So I would say that much we can do. We can be attentive, but I can say that much we can do. Sometimes the mind may be so used to being inattentive, it's very difficult for some. It might be. Perhaps a lot of us to maintain attention for like 2 hours, say when we're chanting japa, to be attentive to that sound for 2 hours is quite a challenge. But I'm sure we all experience so that when we experience those occasions when we are attentive, and we can definitely perceive the different results, isn't it? When we're not attentive. So yeah, it plays, yeah. Thank you for bringing that out. That's very important. And that will be spoken of. It's called ekagrata. Yeah.
Yeah, the last one as well, practitioners, sadhika, are those who are developed rati for Krishna, but have not completely established the anartha and who are qualified to see Krishna directly.
Yeah, that was just a comment.
So, yes, that's what I mean. The comment I just thought.
Yeah, yeah.
It says you're not qualified to see the Krishna directly yet. So not hasn't been.
It says practitioners, sadhakas, are those who have developed attraction for Krishna, but not completely extinguished the anarthas, and who are qualified to see Krishna directly.
Mm.
Does that sound like a contradiction to anyone? In other words, they're sadhakas, they've got some attraction to Krishna, but they're not completely, Odinata is not completely extinguished, but they're qualified to see Krishna directly.
We have.
Sorry? You said something, I didn't hear it, and then it went quiet.
Can we say the example, Rati, Dhruv Maharaj? No.
In what way? Just elaborate more.
Like he
Oh, yeah.
he wanted like kingdom bigger. He wanted something, but when he saw Krishna, then he didn't want anything. So
he got the diamond then, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think, yeah, thank you for bringing it up. So in other words, well, that was Krishna's grace and Krishna's mercy to Dhruva, specifically because he followed the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada Muni, with such sincerity. So that's an interesting case because he wasn't a prema. He's considered to be, from the point of, he's considered to be a kanishta to begin with. But because of his sincere following the instructions of his guru, then Krishna appeared to him, even though he wasn't a prema bhakta. Krishna can do that. That's his prerogative. Yeah. Can do that.
Krishna Prabhu, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
It is Prabhu. You say we should not desire to see the Lord. We should desire because Lord, you should walk in a way that Lord sees you. It's not that we desire.
Yeah, that's Prabhupada will quote that as being spoken by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah, so how can we understand this and that, Prabhu?
Well, we're just discussing, we're not this what we just read there wasn't specifically discussing the devotee's desire. It's just like, for instance, Dhruva Maharaj, he was desiring benedictions from the Lord, or he was desiring material power. So Krishna agreed to appear before him. But that's an interesting kind of meditation. And I remember we shared, I think I shared some time ago, there was that little cartoon that someone had drawn where devotees cleaning the floor and Krishna's looking out of the curtain on the altar. And kind of highlights this principle a lot. In other words, Krishna is going to appear before his sincere devotee if they're practicing devotional service. So Bhaktisiddhanta. So just
actually, I remember this one, Prabhu. When Bilva Mangal Thakur and Krishna sitting and they were listening when he's doing the bhajan, chanting.
Yeah. That
picture, that very famous picture. Yeah.
I think we shared that also, that picture. Yeah. So that's so I mean, that much we can do, or we can do a lot. I mean, let's really be sincere in our devotional practice, and then that will attract Krishna's attention.
Okay. Yeah.
Grace. We might be well, that's at the stages of prema, bhava, and later on prema, where he cannot resist but to appear before the transcendental senses of a devotee.
So in that case, Prabhu, we don't need to desire to see Krishna. We have to do the devotion service properly. Can I say that way?
Any comments on that?
I don't know, Prabhu. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Just repeat that again.
I said we shouldn't desire to see Krishna, but we do what is told to do.
Yeah. Any comments?
Yeah, because
I personally think that if you still want to hankering for see Krishna, it's no harm as far as you're still doing your sadhana.
Okay, so Sunita is praying, so there's no harm. You're doing your sadhana. It's not a bad thing to desire. That's for sure.
I feel that you should act in a way that Krishna sees you, not that you see Krishna.
And there is there's a statement, you desire, then Krishna fulfills. That is also there.
Yeah, but it says don't try to see Krishna, but it doesn't say don't desire.
Yeah.
So if you act in a way that pleases Krishna, then that is a desire to see Krishna in a way.
And other thing is that.
One second. Lavangalati, you just say that. That was interesting. You said
if you're acting in a way to please Krishna, it means that you actually have a desire to associate with Krishna, which means seeing him or hearing him. Or...
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mother Suniti Priya, you wanted to comment on that?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if I go sleep. No, not to worry. Okay.
Look at the mind.
Sorry? What did you say, Chandravali?
Yeah.
I said, look,
Krishna is all attractive. How can you not want to see Krishna because he's so all attractive?
The thing is that we go service, we cook for him.
Your eyes want to see Krishna. You can't help it.
Yeah, but if you think about our devotional practice, like when we're going about, say you're cooking for Krishna, the predominant meditation on your mind is to please Krishna with your service. In other words, it's not like a devotee, say you're making garlands, I want to see Krishna, I want to see Krishna, I want to see Krishna. No, I want to please Krishna. The devotee wants to please Krishna, and whether if Krishna chooses to appear before a devotee, then wow, devotee is obviously going to relish that very much. But their ultimate desire is to please Krishna.
So Prabhu, can we say this way, Prabhu, then? We please Krishna means we see Krishna.
Well, eventually, if you please Krishna, then eventually, then eventually it's understood. Krishna will not be able to resist but to manifest himself before you. But that's why it's also sometimes the discussion when sometimes it's not immediately understood when it's discussed that devotees don't desire even the 5 kinds of liberation. And one of them is happens to live on the same planet as Krishna. So I'm like, well, what's that? What do you want? No, devotees just want to serve Krishna. And if that service means they live on this planet to actually serve him, then they're very nice. I mean, service is, so in other words, it may be a subtle form of sense gratification. It's just for you. In other words, if you want to see Krishna, it's just something for you. But if you want to please Krishna, that's something directly for Krishna.
It's giving, not getting.
Giving.
Yeah.
And no doubt, if that mood's developed to perfection, then, as we know, scriptures give story and so many stories where Krishna actually appears before the devotee. And so it's so devotee wants to please Krishna. That's the most important thing for them. Amazing as it may understand, but it may seem, but they want to please Krishna by their devotion. So that's why Bhaktisiddhanta, that's what he's kind of inferring. One should act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you. So it's not I want to see Krishna, I'm cooking this subject because I want to see Krishna. I want to see Krishna. I want to see Krishna. I want to see. No, you want to please Krishna. Let's please Krishna, and then Krishna will make appear in a dream, or may appear in many wonderful ways, and may appear in his holy name to you. May appear in kirtan. In many ways he can appear on the pages.
Can I ask something? Like if you, like you sing Radhaland and Ishwar, you satisfied seeing Krishna like that? Is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong, but it's a in other words, this is the embassy of the spiritual world, is the temple. In one sense, it's non-different, but it is an embassy. So it's not the country as such. So it's given you insight into the spiritual world. So seeing the deity means that will increase your desire, you know, for like more Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like we see, yeah, in one sense, at the highest stage of prema, then it's non-different. Krishna is there, fully manifest to you.
Yeah.
But
Prabhu, deity, Krishna is not a deity, isn't it, Prabhu? So we think like if we think Krishna is as a deity, he has come as a deity for just to give us mercy. That's by his mercy, but he is not deity. He is.
He's not for the purified soul. He's not the deity.
Yeah, he's Krishna. He's like, you know, what I do.
Yeah.
But so that's, I think we discussed that a little bit in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani. So in one sense, you're seeing Krishna, and that's very satisfying. But there's a lot more details of your spiritual life yet to be revealed.
Yeah.
You know, and that's your specific relationship with Krishna, your specific service to Krishna, and your specific, your specific service to Krishna. So that is also something which you will progressively desire. Anyway, we've got some very deep topics. We just began.
Sorry, Prabhu, I put many things. Sorry for this, but I don't know what to say.
Vamsi got through this today. Any comments on this, Vamsi?
No. I don't have any.
Huh? No. Okay, please feel free. Anyone like to comment on this? All right, let's read another page, sorry. So, Chandravali Mother, I feel you'd like to read page 75.
Okay.
One may inquire. Okay.
One may inquire what bad habits linger beyond the stage of liberation, where one is freed of all reaction to pious and impious deeds. Scriptures say traces of reactions to offenses such as Vaishnava aparad. The effect of offenses are long-lasting and are the source of spiritual obstacles. And while at bhav, offenses are almost nullified, as explained in the later chapter, they still have perceivable influence. Incense has a lingering effect, and when one enters a room in which it has been burned, the aroma is still apparent. Similarly, although the reaction to an offense has been extinguished, still at bhav its effect remains. As a consequence, a bhav bhakta initially suffers setbacks, which he quickly overcomes by the power of his ecstatic devotion. Thereafter, that devotee is a sadhaka no more. For having entered the realm of prema, he becomes a siddha. The above definition of a sadhaka specifically relates to bhav sadhaka and not less accomplished practitioners. This is the clear form from the definition that says that they have awakened love, rati. In a general sense, it can be said that lesser sadhakas, those in ashakti, for example, also have rati. But that love is dormant. Since the verse specifies that love has awakened, the sadhakas referred to are those at the stage of bhav. And so it is clear that there are two kinds of sadhakas, those who have awakened love for Krishna and those who have not.
Okay, so Maharaj is referring to that verse we read at the top of the page. Practitioners, sadhakas, are those who have developed rati for Krishna but have not completely extinguished the anatas. So he's, if I've understood that correctly, he's referring to the particular practitioner who's a Bhava Bhakta. Seems like they've developed rati attraction for Krishna, but not completely extinguished the anatas. So that explains that. A Bhava, so they are qualified to see Krishna to a one degree. You know, any questions on that? Or comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite deep. Like the traces of offenses kind of stay around, and that can cause can cause problems later on in life, in your spiritual life. Like that's where I was thinking of Bharat Maharaj.
Yeah. He's a good example. He's a very good example because
for this, yeah.
Yeah, well, he didn't make. I don't think he made an aparad as such.
No.
He didn't make an aparad, but he became distracted. But still, that and we know the story. But because he was at the stage of bhava, it didn't. In other words, because he was at the stage of bhava, he had that, and in his life as a deer, even he carried that bhava through. In other words, he was in bhava in the body of a deer.
He could remember.
So it didn't act as an impediment to his devotion, because he was very highly advanced, even the body of a deer. Yeah, so it didn't really, it just, so his wrongdoing was, you might say it took 1 or 2 lives, but relatively speaking, it didn't affect him too much, and he then came to a stage of perfection. Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking, like in Bhagavatam and all those Chaitanya Charitamrita, it seems like the reactions to offenses are like very big. Like you become a deer, or you get leprosy, or
Mm-hmm.
or
you can lose everything, or the whole village can be wiped out, or
like it's very, very great. So I mean, in Kali Yuga, I mean, we all must have committed some offenses at some point. So are we getting the reactions to those offenses, or is Krishna protecting us from those reactions to some extent? Because it seems like, the Chota Haridas just begged some rice and thought lustfully, and he was banished and he committed suicide. And it seems like, in Kali Yuga, us devotees, we might be getting somewhat easy time. I don't know if it's waiting for us, and Krishna says, "Oh,
what is different considerations there. One, Maharaj speaks of this, I think, in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani somewhere. It's the intent is very important. If it's unintentional, where you unintentionally might offend a Vaishnava, and there's no ill intent, then that is relatively easily purified. But if the intent is, you could say, what's the word? If the intent is vindictive, in other words, you're talking about someone to create a bad impression about them, and you're slandering their character, that's not, you're doing that deliberately, so that's quite serious offense. But if you've done this, and I think the example is given with Rupa Goswami. We know that story when he was meditating on, was it Rupa Goswami?
Oh, he laughed at the
yeah, I forgot, is it Rupa or Sanatan? Now the intent wasn't so then it wasn't, so that it wasn't a big impediment for him, because it wasn't intentional. It was kind of it was an unintentional offense. So that's one thing to consider, is the intent to that will, you know. And another thing to consider is that yes, we can, there's that verse that describes that if one chants the holy name with attention and tears do not come from the eyes, as the heart, you know that verse, the heart is still framed. So that's always something to meditate upon. You know, we may be chanting with attention, but we may not experience any bhava. So to one degree or another, we can ascertain from that we may be making offenses. Now, the case with Chota Haridas, that's a specific situation, a specific context there to actually teach us, as a particular lesson that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to establish the highest principles, especially for renunciates. So that was quite an extreme example. That was very specific, and that he committed suicide. That was a specific example to show, or that Lord Chaitanya wanted to establish about the behavior of a renunciate. So that was very specific.
Actually, I was just thinking recently it was Devananda Pandit's appearance day. Yeah. And although he committed an offense against Srivas, and because he served the Vaishnavas, Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, and forgave him. So I was just thinking there, service to the Vaishnavas makes you very dear to Lord Chaitanya. So
and as we know, if we knowingly offended the devotee, then the prescription is that we go to the devotee and we beg for forgiveness. And even if the devotee forgives us, then we still may have to go for some time without getting a taste, because the holy name is not very satisfied with what we did. And even if you apologize to the Vaishnava, that's good, but it may be some time before that the effects of that offense lifts still. But still, that's the process to follow. So there is a process. So no doubt we make mistakes, and no doubts we make offenses, but definitely let's avoid making purposeful and vindictive offenses. But still, there may be unintentional offenses. So then we just continue, and we take shelter of the holy name. And as you mentioned, Mother Lavanga, then we engage in devotional service. So anyway, so it is important, and that's why it's mentioned quite a few times in our scriptures and in our Sastra. And it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam as well, in more than one place. So therefore, we should be careful, you know. I don't know if that answered your question. Basically, was that there is hope for us, definitely, because there is a process. I mean, the severity of offenses is explained, but also the methods of becoming free from those offenses is also given to us as well.
There's a place in Navadvip where you can go and you get all your offenses.
There's a place where Lord Chaitanya is like this. I forget the name of that place.
You can do an online visit, maybe.
What can we do? Online visit. Anyone else on that subject? Could be a big subject, but it's mentioned there. So again, we're being reminded to look out for offenses. Don't want to vilify any others.
We did discuss it, didn't we? Before.
I'm sure we have, no doubt. Okay. Let's read page 76 now. Is that correct? Did I get that wrong? Is that correct? Page 76 now? Okay, no one's saying, so I presume it is. So let's have Suniti Priya, you like to read page 76?
Yes. From the above description of the Bhava Sadhaka and from the earlier threefold classification of bhakti, it's clear that not every sadhaka is within the spectrum of sadhana bhakti. Devotional service in practice extends to attachment, and while bhava bhakti is sadhaka, bhava bhakti is a devotional classification, it's its own right. The bhava bhakti is a sadhaka because the aforementioned trans offenses and their consequences, suffering, disqualifying him from being in sadhaka.
Being
Sadhaka, being a siddha, sorry, yes, I beg your pardon, sorry. Sadhana begins at bhajan kriya. So when such practice is unsteady, then according to the verse beginning with
Chayam eva haraye.
Thank you, Mai. Petitioner may be considered a Kanishta Adhikari, unified devotee by attainment. From steadiness to attachment, as will be seen below, a devotee is intermediate Madhyama Adhikarya. Interestingly, perhaps surprisingly, in the description of the Bhava Sadhaka, Rupa Goswami indicates that even those liberated devotees are the category of Madhya Adhikari. He cites Srimad Bhagavatam description of a Madhyama Bhaktam that begins with Ishwar Tad Adinasu. Is that right?
Yeah, that's okay. Ishwara Tat Adinasu.
Thank you. And gives the accomplished Bivra Mangla Thakura as an example of one such devotee who would have thought that author of Krishna Karamandra was still a novice, in the realm of love. To summarize, devotees are known as neophyte and at unsteady bhajan kriya, as intermediate from the steadiness to ecstasy, and as advance of prema, as per their words Sara Bhutasu Ya Pasyad. Knowledge and faith, as well as attachment and affection, are the distinguishing characteristic of a devotee. Cultivating transcendental knowledge or superlatic association are essential for a practitioner to rise to the perfect stage. In the absence of suitable practice, sadhaka, especially Kanishta, is in a precarious situation. Thus, Srila Prabhupada advised serious devotees to give carefully attention to essentials of devotion. A neophyte may fail down by associating with non-devotee because he is not firmly convinced and strongly situated. The second-class devotee, even though he cannot support his position with sastari reference, can gradually become a first-class devotee by studying the Shastra and associating with a first-class devotee.
Okay, thank you. So any comments on that? How can we delve into this? Any reflections? Yeah, definitely surprising, as Maharaj says, to that categorization of Bilvamangala Thakur, who's in this context is a novice in the realm of love. Difficult to understand. Anyway, it just gives that example. It's not elaborated on more. This is Rupa Goswami. But anyway, something just crossed my mind is that, yeah, so this is mentioned also in that Kanishta is a very precarious platform to be on. So generally, we definitely want to try and come to at least to the platform of Madhyam. Yeah. One's faith is very weak. And I was just thinking, I don't know if it's correct to say, but devotees who fall away from devotional service because of a lack of faith, they're obviously, you could say they're kanishtas. But we do see also devotees don't just fall from Kanishta Adhikari, they also fall from Madhyam Adhikari. Of course, there's the example of Maharaj Bharat at Pava. But could you, I think we might be able to say that if a devotee who falls at Madhyam, generally a reason may be, perhaps more likely, it's not lack of faith, but it's Vaishnava Aparad. That clouds everything, because what actually happens, if the offense is severe enough, then you lose, then one who's Madhyam, if the offense is severe, then they go down to Kanishta. They get demoted to the Kanishta platform. And what happens then is they start to have lack of faith in the society of Vaishnavas. You know, they've made a grave offense, then they come down to Kanishta, then their faith becomes less. So, and when their faith is less in the Vaishnavas, then they tend to find fault with the Vaishnavas. And then they might, I don't know if that made sense, that just crossed my mind. Yeah, Kanishta, if they fall down, yeah, you might understand that. It's just a lack of faith, a lack of any prerequisite understanding of the Shastras. But if they fall at Madhyam, then we could say, I mean, Madhyam means they should be making friends with devotees and avoiding the non-devotees. But if their devotional service is done incorrectly, then they can lose that position of Madhyam. Anyway, I'm just crossed my mind. Any comments on that?
I was thinking that if they fall from that state, Madhyam,
yeah,
it might be like temporary. They might then, because the groundwork would be quite a lot, but it's just because of offenses they might fall.
Yeah.
And then after a while they will recover and kind of come back. Well,
hopefully, if they kind of learn their lesson, and if they humble themselves and they learn the lesson and they internally kind of adjust their behavior in the society of Vaishnavas, then they will come back. But if they justify their behavior, if they justify their offenses, then there's a little, they're going to go back the other way. They're not going to come back. They may have to be, and then they may have to be, it could say the Lord will hand them over to the external energy for like further work to be done. So,
yeah. But
yeah.
What about the sannyasis falling down? Are they madhyam adhikaris and therefore they fall down?
Well, one thing to be considered, one's position in Varna and Ashram doesn't necessarily mean that one is advanced spiritually. It should, generally, you may think that, yeah. So, for instance, many devotees who took sannyas in the early days, just because they had sannyas, it doesn't mean their madhyam's coming up to Uddham. Because of the situation, for various reasons, they may have took sannyas quite prematurely. So sannyas is not always, it is not a status of spiritual development. Although in some cases it might be. You understand? So in other words, because we said that, doesn't mean you should look with critical eye at sannyasi. Yeah, you're the danda, but I bet you're just a kanishta. Then you're treading on thin ice. And therefore, we even see spiritual masters. It doesn't happen much now at all, but in the past we've seen, spiritual masters who are actually, as it's looking back on their execution of devotional service, one may have to come to the conclusion that they're kanishtas. And that's why Prabhupada says one should be careful. One can take initiation from a kanishta, madhyama, or uttam, but one will not be sufficiently, or one will not be able to get sufficient guidance. So I don't know if that answered your question, Mother Rajkishore. Yeah. Yeah. Any Vamsivat, you have to say something. You're here.
Yeah.
No, I've decided to do hearing today because I speak too much.
No, you're not enough.
You can't come in a class and be a dummy. Sorry.
No, I'm just really internalizing everything I'm hearing today.
Okay, not a problem. But
can I then think, I'm just thinking, when we, like, say if somebody's taking second initiation, so the Brahman, right? So then it's not that if they've taken the second initiation, so they're going to be Brahman. It's just the development, right? You develop the qualities afterward. So in that way, when a sannyasi falls, would it be like they're not at a higher level, they're just beginning their sannyas ashram? Makes sense?
We could say that. I mean, you could say that. They might just see the reasons are quite varied, although they follow certain trademarks. But generally, it may be for many reasons why anyone may fall down, whether you're a sannyasi or a grihasta for 30
Yeah, anyone, yeah.
years, you've been following strictly, and then something happens and some aparad is there, some over familiarity, or for instance, one may have got, even before one takes sannyas, one may have be kind of unconsciously, one sense subtly desiring some type of material enjoyment, and they may get pushed forward for sannyas, and they haven't been truthful and they're not revealed their mind of what's going on internally, and they may take sannyas for material position or for some adoration, and these are all the wrong reasons to actually take sannyas. So then that's not going to stop once they take sannyas. That's not going to disappear. They have to work on these things still. But if they don't, it doesn't, whether you're a sannyasi, whatever ashram you're in, the senses are still going to be attracted to the sense objects.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean, even if you're a guru, it doesn't mean you stop becoming attracted to material energy. It just means but those devotees who actually take shelter of Krishna, and they turn away from that attraction, then they get purified. I'm just trying to emphasize that.
I got that.
The internal, So therefore, we see devotees fall from all types of positions, all types of ashrams, and all types of
because so sense objects would be there, but if your faith is firm, if you're stronger, then you'll be able to
then you don't go there.
You'll use your intelligence and work with the
wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering nature. But again, back to that.
That is for anybody. That's for anybody, right?
Yeah.
For anyone, any situation. Okay.
Anyone. That's why it says in Bhagavad Gita, like the senses, even one of the roaming senses can a man even of discrimination. As a boat on the ocean is carried away by the wind, so one of the roaming senses can even of a person of discrimination. So we have to be very, very careful. It's like that's why spiritual life is like a razor's edge.
Mm.
You know, one mistake and we can cut ourselves. So we have to be careful.
And Krishna also helps, yeah, to make the right decisions.
What do you mean? Krishna helps?
If you are a farmer in your sadhana.
If you're a farmer?
Farmer.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Then yeah. I think that Krishna would really guide you, help you in situations like that.
Yeah. So, well, if you're firm in your sadhana, that means you're helping yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. God helps those who actually helps themselves. So if you're firm in your sadhana, then yeah, I don't know what by firm means. Say could be attentive, you're serious and you're attentive.
I mean serious. That's the word, not firm kind of thing. Serious. Follow your sadhana properly.
That's the whole. I mean, that's what we want to be. I mean, if we are serious in our practice, then we will be able to protect ourselves.
Right.
But if we start to become unserious, and this whole topic, you know, we become unserious, where you start to be taking it, you become lackadaisical, or and then Krishna may have to. You know, sometimes, believe it or not, it could say for some persons, a fall down may be a good thing for a devotee in the long term. You know, because it really shakes them up and it gives them the humility, which perhaps they didn't have before. You know, I know one godbrother of mine where he fell away from devotional practice for quite a few years. But he's come back and he's really come back. He's really, you know, he's learned some lessons out there under the grips of the material energy. And he's really serious and sincere about his devotional practice, you know. So unfortunately, you could say, or fortunately, but he had to, just like Judd Barrett had to experience some quite intense setback in the body of a deer. But he became very, very much determined not to make the same mistake again. So hopefully we shouldn't have to have that experience. It doesn't mean everyone will have that experience, but some devotees will. That experience may, in the long term, for some, it may be good. Because they may be meditating upon the objects of the senses and they can't get it out of their mind. They meditate in the mind and it's still, despite the warnings from Krishna, despite, you know, the warnings from devotees, despite reading scripture, but they can't get it out of their mind. So they leave and they engage in nonsense. And then they really get, you know, then they really, by Krishna's grace, then they really get to see the futility of their material activities, you know.
Okay.
No, Hare Krishna. Now I'm speaking too much, and it's, my God, it's 7 o'clock already. Where did we finish? Or where did we get to?
I think page 77.
77.
I finished with the first class devotee.
All right. Okay, that went a bit quick today, didn't it? I suppose. But there it is. That's an hour. That's an hour up. We can perhaps. Is that okay with everyone? We'll stop there then for today.
Yes, thank you. Lovely. Thank you for that.
Quite some deep points we discussed there about seeing, we act in such a way that we can see Krishna. We should let Krishna see us. You know, spoke about a little bit about offenses to devotees, different levels of the practitioner and the sadhaka. Anyway, okay. So let's start next week with 77. Yeah. And tomorrow we have Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, isn't it? Chapter 28. Did I get that right? Is that correct?
Chandravali, do you have a book?
No, I just remember it is Sudha Bhakti Chintamani tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. And that's from 6 till 7, yeah?
Yeah. That's okay by you, your time.
Yeah, 6 to 7.
Okay, great. Because the marathon, we changed things around a bit, but just okay. So yeah, we're coming to the end of Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, chapter 28, I think. There's 30 chapters, so let's all get together tomorrow for some more Krishna Katha. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, with grace, Murli Prabhu Maharaj.
No.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're going to press the end button and we're all going to disappear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.